Pressing go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another not battle report, but rather we're doing a little bit of a podcast this time. And instead of a battle report, we will be resuming normal battle report things next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Joining me today is Dan. One moment, let me sort something out. Now, one sec. Try again. Try talking now.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. I can see that you're being picked up on the thing on OBS. Let me just quickly adjust the gain on this Yeti to match
huge gains.
OBS.
Big rep.
Anybody that's watching the stream, I've just leveled the gain on OBS and my microphone. Let me know if one of us is too quiet, one of us is too loud. So anyway, yeah, we're going to be talking about the RTT that we went to on Saturday, that we hosted in our LGS that just went by. Figured we would pick apart things, talk about some of our games and how things went and lists and whatnot. Robert is already with us. Welcome, Robert. Let us know how the audio is. So first of all, a quick thank you to our sponsor, Composite Games. If you would like to buy plastic crack or cardboard crack or any other kind of degenerate nerd hobby that you desire, hopefully they don't sell real crack. I don't know. Maybe Doncaster is prolific for that kind of thing.
It is Doncaster.
Yes, it's true. You can get 20% off RRP on Warhammer related bits, and if you want to support the channel, you can use code Lightning at checkout to get an extra 5% off for a total of 25% off RRP. Still haven't had my Lord Invocatus. GW, what's going on? Moving on swiftly. The RTT. So we had a 3-round RTT. It all went pretty swimmingly well. We had a couple of out-of-towners, lots of locals. Generally speaking, the event went incredibly well. We had to shorten the rounds to 2 hours, 45 minutes due to time constraints, which was out of our control. We did our best to get it organized as best we could.
Surprisingly, it was not a big issue. Actually. I think everyone finished their games.
Yeah, everyone was pretty rapid. I think there was only one game that went on quite long, and that was in the 3rd round, which is to be expected. Anyway, do you want to go through your list and how your games went before we go into everything? For reference, I have put the top 3 placing lists in the description below. So Dan came first with his Craftworld Eldar. It was Hail of Doom. Second was Me and My Demons, but I relinquished second because I was the TO to Rob, who was playing Ultramarines. And then the de facto 3rd place after Ultramarines was Andy and his Votan. So do you want to go through your list and your matches?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say, first of all, thanks for organizing hosting. It was a great event. I think everyone was pretty happy. I haven't seen anyone being too mad or salty. No big issues. So no, it was a good event. I had a good time. So, as the resident Eldar boy, I felt obligated to play Eldar. Mainly because it is my favorite faction. I love playing them. I've played a lot of Eldar since their codex came out in 9th edition, and as I was saying to the other guys, it feels like it's only been like really the last 10 games probably I played. I felt like everything kind of came together.
You've unlocked your third eye.
They're hard. There's a lot of very subtle things that I feel like only armies like Eldar suffer from because they're very squishy, right? So a lot of the time, I would either overcommit my army and move forward and then get clapped, or I would overcommit units to an engagement. So if I want to take something out, I would overcommit units, kill that thing, and then just leave too many things out in the open, and then die on the clapback, stuff like that. So it's definitely an army that that I've lost many games purely based on movement. But I think I've done okay recently. I feel like I've played well, so it was good. I enjoyed it, and I think the list is pretty decent. Probably the most competitive list I think I probably came up with for Eldar. So going into the list, I started off with sort of out of the no-org slot, my two action monkeys or warp ritual monkeys, which is Seer Council, so 2 warlocks with just quicken and restraint. The reason I take them in a unit of 2 is redundancy. I've had it many a time, even at this tournament actually, where you roll that double 6 and they go poof. So having 2 in a unit means that's not as likely. Well, it's guaranteed that at least one of them will survive. And then there's a warlock on bike. He's the guy that literally jumps forward, casts warp ritual, and the 2 other warlocks cast quicken to move him back behind cover. So that's their sole purpose: is 3 turns, run forward, cast warp ritual, come back. They've done pretty well. Can't complain. I think it's been a staple in pretty much all of my Eldar lists. Then for headquarters, I took the two bros, Baharoth and Karandras. Don't leave home without them. They do work every single game.
The rage was palpable.
Yeah, people hate that Baharoth, man. And I don't know why.
Neither do I.
He's annoying, but that's about it.
He's super mid. Like, in my eyes, the only thing he's like, I see him as like being like the real pain is if you like remove him from the table and put him on an objective because he's OBSEC.
Yeah,
but your opponent
his whole purpose.
Shouldn't be letting you do that.
No, that's his whole purpose. Yeah. He is utility more than anything. If you want to talk about killing power, Karandras. Every game, Karandras overperforms.
Hello, Kaleth. Welcome.
Hey. Yeah, I love Karandras. He does damage. Every game, he does damage. I think even against one of the matchups, I guess we'll talk about sort of rounds later.
He very much punches above his weight in terms of points.
Always, because of the
it's the mortals
wound cap, right? Yeah, it's the mortals, but also the wound cap.
Yeah.
So anything that's infantry, so non-vehicle, non-monster, he minces. Actually, no, his mortals do work on vehicles, just not monsters. Sorry.
Oh
no, they work on monsters,
not vehicles. Yeah.
So what else did I have? I had a Farseer Skyrunner. That's the Colonel's Bow mark of the incomparable hunter combo. So he has 3 pistol shots, does a bunch of mortals. He's always good. And I usually run him with Doom and Executioner. So Doom for the full rerolls to wounds against the target, Executioner for mortal wounds. To be honest, after running that setup for so long, I don't even think Executioner is worth taking these days. I should have probably taken something else instead of Executioner, but I can't say I've cast Executioner.
I think because of our local meta, it's not come as handy. But if you played against a more wider field, like Sisters, Orcs, stuff like that, even Guard, Executioner actually starts to pull its weight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those.
It's the same
I think even then you could.
It's the same with Dark Blessing for Thousand Suns. It only works on T3 armies.
I get you. But yeah, he does good. He's really just the Doom and the bow / Mark of the Incomparable Hunter just does damage. Like every round, it just peppers something with some mortals. Like 2 to 5 mortals every turn. Because again, you can use fate dice. Every wound fate dice is basically 2 mortal wounds. So you can't go wrong with that. It's pretty good. And then I also had another Farseer on foot, and he's just the buff piece. He has Guide, so full rerolls to hit on a unit, and Focus Will. Focus Will is pretty good. I like to run Focus Will in non-Oathway lists. Focus Will basically gives another Psyker +2 to the cast rolls, and I usually put that on. I usually put that on the Warlock on bike that does Warp Ritual, just to help with denies.
Yeah.
Because again, not Oathway, so I don't have the guaranteed casts on the 9-up. And it came in handy because my first game was against
Grey Knights with all the
Grey
denies.
Knights. Yeah. So and guess what? I got it off 3 times. So.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And then no troops. We're big chads here. We don't mess around with troops. Don't need them. Because I'm running Hail of Doom. So in Oathway, I think ranges are good for actions, for secondaries. But I went for damage. This build was just pure damage.
I think for most armies, unless your troops are killy like demons, most armies are just foregoing troops. OBSEC is not that big a deal anymore.
It really isn't. It really isn't. In fact, in this entire army, I have 3 OBSEC units. Yeah. 2 of them being the Phoenix Lords, and the other being a unit Dire Avengers with the upgrade. So speaking of Dire Avengers, 3 units of 10 Dire Avengers. Exarchs, of course, with double shuriken cannons. One of them has Stand Firm, so that's +1 to their leadership. And OBSEC. And they do great because I ran in most games. In fact, I think, in every game I basically took Warp Ritual and banners.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good. Dire Avengers is great because people always forget that they can move, shoot, and still do actions. So, turn 1, you hop onto the point that is just outside of your deployment zone. You go there, drop your banner, and you still get around the shooting. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I can't complain about the Dire Avengers. They always do damage. And again, Hail of Doom, even against vehicles, they'll get some damage through because of the auto wound. What else did we have? We had a unit of 5 Howling Banshees. Again, I think those are core things that I always take in pretty much every list. You can't go wrong with Howling Banshees. They're more of a utility piece. Yes, they do damage.
That fight last, really.
They're there for the fight last, and also no Overwatch. So, for example, if you play against a big melee army or a big, a good example is actually Grey Knights, right? The first opponent that I played against had a big brick of Terminators, like 10 Paladins. Charging into that is a bad time with Striking Scorpions. Charge in with the Howling Banshees first for no Overwatch, and then the Striking Scorpions can come in afterwards and charge unmolested, so it's pretty good. And of course, Howling Banshees, they got the standard Mirror Swords piercing strikes on the Exarch, so she does hella damage. Then I have a big brick of Striking Scorpions. This was a sort of thing I've picked up from Teebs. Thanks, T-Will, for that. It's pretty good. The reason I like the 10 brick, and the reason we go for a 10 brick is redeploy at the start of the game. So if you go turn 1, you redeploy your Striking Scorpions. Of course, if it makes sense. Doesn't always make sense. But you redeploy your Striking Scorpion and Karandras and go for a turn 1 charge and try to pick off sort of key points from your opponent's army. I've done that against, again, the Grey Knights player. I think he lost about 3 units of stuff turn 1. So I managed to pick off his juiced up Librarian, right? I think him losing that Librarian turn 1.
That Librarian is a large proportion of Grey Knight's killing power.
Yeah, exactly.
He can genuinely one-shot squads by himself.
Yep. That's why I was like, ooh,
yeah.
I see an opening and I'm going for it. So yeah, that brick of 10 Striking Scorpions took out the Librarian and a unit of Purifiers. And after that, I was happy for them to just die because they made up. They did what they had to do. And same with Karandras, he went in and killed some stuff. So they're pretty good. And then I had one big brick of 6 shining spears. And the Exarch had expert lances, which is +1 to hit on charge. He also had Kane's lance, so on charge on a 4-up, the opponent fights last, and they take some mortal wounds. The reason I took a big brick of shining spears is because they all have shuriken weapons. Yay! And I think shining spears, they feel a bit underappreciated at the moment because they're only 30 points. And for 30 points, you get obviously the speed, but you get 4 shuriken shots, and you get the lance shot as well, which is like almost a mini melter in my eyes. Strength 6, AP -4, flat 2 damage. So you get that, and you get a pretty decent melee profile again. Strength 6, AP -4, 2 damage. They're just good. They're solid. A lot of the time, I'm quite happy to sacrifice them. People like to go for them, and I'm like, you know what? If you want to spend a lot of shooting into them, go right ahead. But when it comes to actually them charging in and do damage, they perform, especially with the expert lances. The +1 to hit on charge is pretty nice because they got big AP. So against Space Marines, it's decent stuff.
Yeah.
And then the last unit, which has been truly the MVP for me, it's pure, just raw damage. It's a unit of 9 Wind Riders with Shuriken Cannons. That's a lot of damage. I think against Votan, I think they single-handedly like took out half of his army. I think across like 4 turns.
Yeah.
Because you just jump them forwards, give him guide for 4 rolls to hit, spend 1 CP for exploding 6s, and just carnage ensues after that. They're pretty good. Same thing against Knights. One of my matchups was against Knights, Imperial Knights to be more precise. And yeah, they shredded a Knight every turn without much of a problem. And those are the bullshit Knights with the 4-up pinball and the -1 damage and all of the silly buffs.
I think both of us were scared of the Knights player, and then
I was terrified.
Both of us then were not scared of the Knights player.
Yeah, he played
passive.
Very
passive.
Very passive. It was a very passive game, which is fine. Okay, I think we're discussing it afterwards. He had his list had one big knight
and the
9
rest was just war dogs. Yeah,
war dogs. Well, we keep calling them war dogs because Andy plays.
Oh, Helverins. The big knight was largely there to hand out all of the crazy buffs.
Yeah.
But once all the crazy buffs had been handed out, he was just loaded up with like 5 of each baby knight and a Moirax.
Something like that. Yeah, I think he had. No, I think he had more Warglaives. I think more Warglaives. 3 Helverins, or was it 4 Helverins?
I can't remember. It was a lot.
Either way, yeah, a lot of stuff and a Moirax.
Yeah, I saw him turn up with his tub, and I was like, "Oh dear,
someone's gonna die."
Yeah.
But no, he played passive. I was kind of quite in my mind. I was like, if this guy knows how to play, I just lose.
Me too. Yeah.
It would throw all of the knights in front of me at once, and I can't take them all out in one turn.
Yep.
So sure, I'll kill, 2, 3 on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, he just wipes my army.
Yeah.
At least that's what I was expecting.
When your opponent has 12 T7 3-up, 4-up inborn knights that I will have fuck out as 5 obsec, and they just throw them onto your home objectives. You just can't kill them all. And I couldn't. I certainly couldn't kill them all.
They're fast, and also he can give them advance and charge as well. So just yeeting war dogs at you, what they're called, warglaives, that's what. Yeah. Yeeting warglaives at you. Like I said, you'll kill 3, 4. But afterwards, I think you lose everything. At least I was expecting to lose most of my stuff.
Yeah.
But no, he threw 1 or 2 war dogs at me every turn. And I was like, you know what? I'm okay with this. So I managed to grind that game out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of my list. Yep. A bunch of Dire Avengers, some Wind Riders, a big brick of Shining Spears. Another reason I took Shining Spears was in case I wanted to take Wrath of Cain as a secondary, which is the Eldar one, where if you kill stuff with Aspect Warriors, you need to kill something with one unit in shooting and a different unit in melee. And it's 4 points a turn if you do both, which is pretty big. So I was like, ooh, I need a bit more balance in a bit more balance in terms of melee shooting on Aspect Warriors. I actually ended up not taking that in any of my games, just because of the matchups. So obviously, if first game I played against Grey Knights, and it was quite an infantry heavy list. He didn't have too many Dread Knights, so I took No Prisoners as my third. Against Knights, I took, of course, Bring It Down, and then against Votann, I took No Prisoners again, because again it was quite a heavy
mega
infantry
heavy
list.
infantry list, and bikes.
He had only one.
And he could resurrect guys as well with the med pack.
Yeah. So it was. It's fine. I think I scored relatively well. I think over 90 points in all 3 games.
Yeah. What was interesting was so I paired myself round 1 with Attila, who couldn't make it round 1, and gave us both a 0-point draw. And still managed to eke out second because, interestingly, there was quite a lot of very, very low scoring games during the tournament. Like, people were winning with 50, 60 points. So it was possible for someone who had literally only got to play 2 games and scored like 90. I think I scored 97 and 92, 93 in my 2 games. And that was apparently enough to get places.
I think when people lost, somehow the losses were very crushing for the other people.
Yes.
So yeah.
No, it was interesting.
Was it Robert came third, right?
Yes, yeah.
I think if he would have scored a bit better in his first game, which is against Votann. It's a hard matchup for him.
It's brutal.
You would have probably taken second easily, but it's a rough game into Votann.
The interesting thing about Votann is I kept saying to Andy, they are a mid-table bully. They will bully the absolute crap out of all of the early and mid-table games, but then once you get to your final cut, they struggle against those armies quite badly.
Their secondaries are just not
They're
good.
abysmal. They're as bad as Tyranids.
They struggle.
Yeah.
They
Andy played a practice game against me, and he tried all 3. And one of them, I don't think he scored any points on at all. The one where you put judgment tokens on a unit and kill it was okay.
That one's okay.
But the rest are just genuinely quite terrible. I was shocked at how bad their secondaries were.
Even that, I think in our game, because I held my stuff behind cover a lot of the time, all he got judgment tokens on was the stuff that wasn't doing objectives
and actions. Yeah,
and those things were behind cover. And he lost his bikes early on. So I managed to get his bikes. He tried to bait me. I didn't fall for it, and I managed to pick off his bikes because it kind of held them back.
The bikes, in my opinion, definitely do a huge amount of damage for Votann. 2 big bike squads, they have an absurd amount of shots. And like I said, when I played a practice game against him earlier in the week, I think his 2 bike squads killed more than anything else in his list.
Yeah, no, they do damage. The Beam Boys, forgot what they're called. They're the heavy...
The Thunderkin, yeah.
The Thunderkin. They do a lot of damage.
Yeah, because the grab as well is flat 3 damage or something crazy.
Yeah, man, they're scary. They do damage.
Yeah. Quite shocking at how much damage they do, to be perfectly honest. Any particular standout games before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, my old nemesis Andy, of course. I think in terms of armies, the one that I was scared of the most was knights,
Yeah.
just because my list has no anti tank. Shurikens are sort of generally good against anti tank, but not when your opponent has 10 vehicles coming at you.
Yeah. If you're playing all
So
the
I
way,
was,
you
I
would
was
have
prepared to
suffered
lose
a
that.
bit more, I think, against knights without the Hail of
Yeah,
Doom
yeah. So I
triggers.
think, yeah. So if I was playing Ulthway, I would have had Fire Dragons on the list. I
Yeah.
quite like Fire Dragons. But even with Fire Dragons, they'll delete one knight a turn, but that's about it.
Yeah.
No, Hail of Doom is definitely a more well-rounded list.
It has ways to deal with a lot of different things.
Yeah, so that was the scary matchup. The sweatiest game was definitely against Votan.
Yeah,
because Andy's a very good player. So I was definitely going by the measure twice, move once kind of. But it was a good game. It was a good game.
My list was pretty basic. I went into it not really too fussed. I just went there to host more than to play. Last few weeks, I've mostly just been playing fun Warhammer in the build up to 10th edition, which might not end up being fun Warhammer. Who knows? I literally just brought one of each Exalted Greater Demon, Lord of Change, Great and Clean Bloodthirster, and the named Keeper of Secrets, and then one of each troop type. And then I had spare points for some Nurglings and some the dogs, whatever they're called. It was a pretty. That's it. It was a super like simple list. It was not complicated in the slightest. I actually spent most of my CP pre-game just loading up every single Greater Demon with as many relics as possible. I took all mortal wound spells, absolutely zero buff spells, which is unusual for demons. Even on the Keeper of Secrets, I just went mass mortal wound spells. One of those combos was actually shockingly powerful. Like absurdly powerful.
Oh, was that your Keeper of Secrets?
Yeah, that was
scary.
Wild. So Caleth is asked how the Unclean One was. So it's kind of funny. He did nothing the entire game,
which is exactly his purpose.
But he was my warp ritual bitch, and he completed warp ritual every game because people I don't know what it is. Like, he does no damage. He's crap in melee. His psychic powers are mediocre at best, but the man's got 22 wounds at T9, 4 up against ranged and 5 up in melee. And I gave him the Exalted ability for -1 damage in melee. So while he cost 320 points or whatever, and he was largely there to do Warp Ritual, every single player I played against just naturally gravitated towards trying to kill him. And it was
this
so bizarre.
Is getting ridiculous.
And so everyone just unleashed everything into the Great and Clean One, and I was like, okay, that's fine. If you're going to ignore my Bloodthirster and everything else and like the Mortal Wound Bird, then that's cool. I think the only game where he died before he completed Warp Ritual was against Knights, and that was because the Knight player had an absurd amount of damage 3 or strength 9 weaponry. And even then, he didn't kill him till turn 3. And he'd soaked up like most of his army. So the Great and Clean One doesn't functionally achieve much in the way of like damage, but he's an exceptionally good Warp Ritual character because you don't need to protect him, and if people are stupid enough to get into combat with him, he's got a absolutely insane flamer, which is like 7 -3 flat 2, and another flamer, and they do very little damage to him in melee. The only real way to do damage to him is by shooting him a lot. But yeah, the Lord of Change just had mortal wound powers and the Impossible Robe. Bloodthirster was kitted out as usual with the wound cap, the big damage, and the 5 up feel no pain. Shalaxi had no warlord traits or relics, but she's just really good at killing characters, which came in clutch against the Knights because he made a bunch of his knight's characters. So she's got her weapon becomes like an extra D3 or D6 damage against characters, and she can heroic 6 inches into characters. Trying to think what else. And yeah, the troops, the Nurglings, man. I've never seen a knight player so frustrated by Nurglings. So the first game I didn't get to play because it was a 0-point draw. The second game was against Necrons, and it was the game where you couldn't forward deploy, so my Nurglings were pointless. So I literally left them in a corner in a building to score me Reality Rebels, the Demon Engage. And then they ended up tying up a squad of 5 warriors, or not warriors, immortals, Necron immortals, because he just couldn't kill them. Because they're naturally -1 to hit, and they've got quite a lot of wounds. And so I just tied them up for 3 turns, I think. And then the third game, I did forward deploy them against 12 Helverins and a Big Knight. And he wouldn't commit any big guns to them because it was a waste, because there was 4 greater demons for him to shoot. So he only committed his the guns that are on the head of all of his knights, like the Stubbers or the Baby Melters, or like the rocket pod on the Big Knight. And he killed, I want to say one Nurgling base out of 4. And turn 5, he had to charge them with a Warglaive to kill them when they finally died. And they held center for 4 turns because he didn't want to come near my Great and Clean One, who was also center. So the Nurglings were like scoring just a ridiculous amount of points. And it was bizarre because I never played them before, ever. And they're -1 to hit natively. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and they're busted, bro. They're arguably one of the best units in the Demon Codex.
Yeah, they're so frustrating. So frustrating to like deal with, because they're only T3, but they got 4 wounds on like a 4-up and a 5-up. Or something like that, and they're natively -1 to hit. And they've got like they auto wound on 6s in melee as well, which is kind of
literally neat. Like them. What they called the Scarab Swarms.
Yes,
they're just piece of shit Scarab.
Yes, they
swarms.
are. Yeah. Another thing I found out when I played the tournament for the first time, which I haven't been doing before, is for 1 CP you can give the Great and Clean One -1 to hit, both in shooting and melee, which I didn't realize until Saturday. Which makes him absurdly durable against everything. Other than that, the troops all did their job. Plague Bearers, I'm going to put them in every single demon list I ever make, because they did not die in any game. And I think they one-shotted a Warglaive as well with the mortal wounds.
Tough little cookies.
With the mortal wounds on 6s to wound, in addition to being 4 -2/1. They're tough as nails, and they can do a lot of damage in melee in a pinch. The Bloodletters, I would always put them in Deep Strike and do the 3d6 charge from Deep Strike. The dogs, man, every time I play them, I think to myself, these aren't going to do much. But every time I play, the dogs kill something important, and I was kind of surprised. Pretty much every game my Bloodthirster died turn 2 or turn 3, which was expected. Shalaxi. So the combo with Shalaxi is absolutely outrageous. And I think I took his Big Knight down to his 2nd bracket after I Deep Struck. So he's got a weird combo. If you save enough Warpstorm points to increase your aura debuff from -1 to -2, the enemy becomes -2 leadership. She then has a psychic power where for every mortal wound you do, they get -1 leadership. She then has another psychic power. So let's say you've taken them down by -3 or -4. She then has another power, which is you roll 3d6, and for every point you exceed their leadership, they take a mortal wound. So I got this guy's Big Knight down to leadership 4, and I rolled like a 13. And it maxes out at like 6 mortal wounds or whatever. But I think that phase, I dealt
6 mortal wounds.
I dealt a ton of mortal wounds to this Big Knight. And then I just charged it and took it down to like 4 wounds because she's got additional D3 damage against characters. Yeah, the combo is pretty crazy. And if you combine that with Big Bird, with his Infernal Gateway, plus Bolt of Change, plus his Exalted ability that means everything that took a mortal wound takes an extra mortal wound on a 2-up. I was wiping stuff with mortals before I even got to attack. And obviously the Bloodthirster does mortals on the charge, which I kept forgetting as well. It's kind of scary. Not gonna lie. The list was super fun to play. It is susceptible to massed crappy power, however. I played against Necrons, not a particularly tuned Necron list. He just took a million guns, lots of Immortals, lots of Warriors, lots of like shooty little shots, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little shots. And he wiped all my troops, all my Nurglings, all my dogs, killed 2 of my Greater Demons, and I was like, this list kind of sucks against Massed Weight of Fire, like real hard. So I think if I'd have played against Hail of Doom, I would have had very much a bad time. But yeah, it was still a fun list to play. It was enjoyable getting to play like the Great and Clean one for once, which has just sort of been consigned to the shelf for a long time. And he was actually useful. Against the Knights, like you, I was absolutely terrified. But again, he played extremely passively. I think he was expecting sweaty demons, even though there weren't sweaty demons in my list. I think he was expecting the damage from mass flamers and mass fiends, and he was like, I'm going to hold back, not overcommit because he's going to blast me. But then on my turn 1, when I just threw a Great and Clean one forward, a Bloodthirster and a Big Bird out in the open, he still didn't seem convinced that he could rush forward.
Yeah. I think
and I was
if
like,
he was playing against a good list, if he was playing against your good list, I think you would have been in a lot more trouble if he was playing reserved. Yeah.
If I said to him at the end of the game, I was like, if he had just full sent all of his Warglaives forward, I would have struggled. Because my Greater Demons can't kill more than 1 Warglaive a turn. Like, the Bloodthirster will kill 1 Warglaive, but he didn't because he gave his Warglaives 4-up invulns and melee from the power. So my Bloodthirster was not reliably killing single Warglaives. Shalaxi also was not reliably killing single Warglaives. So if he'd have just sent 5 or 6 Warglaives forward, taken middle, taken his 2 home objectives, and maybe like tried to contest one of mine, I would have been in trouble because I couldn't deal with everything fast enough.
Yeah, exactly.
But because he just stayed on his half of the board and shot, and then didn't move his Warglaives on to my flank until turn 3, I don't think. And all it was to charge some Fleshhounds. I was very surprised that he didn't bully the crap out of me. And equally, I was surprised that you managed to win against it, because we were discussing it beforehand, and you said you were match for Knights. So I was like, man, that's a rough match for you. But I think we were fortunate in that he didn't quite comprehend the power of his list. I don't know. He seemed to go to a fair few tournaments.
He played reserved.
Yeah. Also, Knight secondaries, the Imperial Knight ones at the very least, don't seem too fantastic. One of them's good. The one where you just sort of do actions on objectives or whatever. But the one where you're not allowed to fall back or move towards your deployment zone at all, otherwise it costs you points, is really crippling.
Well, it's not, right? Because you're meant to be playing very aggressive.
Yeah. But
the army's meant to be kind of played aggressive. So.
Yeah. I think the problem was because of the UKTC terrain, and because he had so many little knights, I was jamming his flanks so that he couldn't move past me. So I jammed a Bloodthirster on his left flank, I jammed a Shalaxi on his right flank, and he couldn't get around my guys. And so if he wanted to move, he had to fall back out of combat and allow the other knights to get past. And because he kept having to fall out of combat to let his other knights move, he was losing points on one of his knight secondaries.
That makes sense.
But if he'd have, like I said, if he'd have full sent earlier on in the game to take mid, to contest that mid, it wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah, it's one of those, and those are things that will just come to you with experience. Right? The more you play, the better you get.
Yeah. The other thing I found very interesting is I played against Chaos Knights an awful lot, obviously because Andy plays them a ton. Imperial Knights are significantly worse in melee. than in Chaos Knights. So that guy was only
Yeah,
rolling like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 melee attacks with his sweeps. When I play against Andy, that man's rolling like 15 sweep attacks or 8 strike attacks, and just seems like the Chaos Knights do significantly more damage in melee than Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights seems like very much a shooting faction.
They do, and they got more strength as well.
Yeah.
The Imperial Knights are better at shooting, for sure. Especially with like the fucking Slayer of Beasts and all the other bullshit.
Yeah.
They got the crazy shooting relics and mortal wounds on shooting and all of that wacky stuff.
Yeah, with these 6 to wound causes all of your damage to become mortal wounds. That was what I was scared of. But mercifully, he couldn't do it in his army renown. Because that would have just ended me. Because it has ended me before.
Yes.
But
we've all been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah. A quick recap of Robert, who was in the top 3. He was playing Ultramarines, a very shooty Ultramarine list. It was a reasonably decent list. Robert doesn't like to play more than so many of a certain unit in his lists. So he wasn't playing mass desolators, mass gladiators, and what do you call them? Dev squads. He was playing a little bit more of a combined arms, balanced, more interesting list to him, at least to play. But he still ran 2 squads of desolators, 2 squads of 5.
Yes, yeah.
Drakari, no, there was no Drakari. But he had G-Man, he had the Judicia, he had Tigerius. He had the mildly infuriating Victrix Honor Guard that have a 3-up invuln and are suspiciously tough.
Yeah, those things are
huge brick of intercessors which get babysat by a chaplain because the chaplain gives them the +1 to hit and the +1 to wound buff against the closest target. Gulliman continues to baffle me with his full rerolls of rerolling everything and rerolling all these other things in a gigantic aura. Desolators are just absurd. The one thing Desolators just can't crack is Votan. Because of the indirect fire nerf and Votan's void armor on top of most of them most of the time being on cover, Votan pretty much just don't get touched by Desolators, and I think he got paired against Votan on round 1.
Round 1, yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Even against that, if you have enough Desolator, because he's still saving on 3-up and cover, never mind.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it was a painful matchup for him. But even still, I played against the Ultramarines as a practice game with Robert, and it's a very killy list. Not as killy as it could be if he were to run mass everything cancer. But the intercessors are that you only let that happen to you once.
Oh, the brick of 10 intercessors.
Yeah, the brick of 10 intercessors. +1 to hit, +1 to wound,
damage, yeah.
And then he spends 2 CP to shoot again. I think in our practice game, not much of his army did anything. But when he shot those 10 intercessors at my bikes, he killed the bikes. Like they
yeah, because you go like, fuck, it's intercessors, right? Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Woo-wee, 10 intercessors. They hold point real nice, very cool. But then they're like, no. Talk shit, get hit.
Yeah, it's a shockingly good combo. I think it catches people off guard. It's very much like one of those sleeper units where people see it and they're like, that's whatever.
Yeah.
And then they blast you.
40 shots. 40 shots with +1 to wound, rerolling everything.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and if he keeps them within so many inches of Tigerius, then the whole squad gets a 5-up invul.
5-up from the no zone, and then was it -1 to hit as well?
Yes,
reasons.
Yeah. Tigerius can give 1 unit -1 to hit. Yeah, it's funky stuff. What else did he have in his list? He had Outriders.
Outriders. I think there was some Boltstorm Aggressors.
Oh yes, yeah, Boltstorm Aggressors. But it was all about the Gladiator, the Redemptor, the Desolators, and the Intercessors. They were there to do damage, and obviously he had had the Judicia babysitting Gulliman, and then Gulliman would sort of stay near a squad so that if anybody dared try and kill one of his squads, Gulliman and the Judicia would heroically intervene, cause you to fight last, and then you proceed to get smashed.
Yeah, trying to challenge. It's just against Ultramarines in general, like especially his list though. It's trying to challenge Gilliman was a bad fucking day.
When I practiced against him, I said to him, "I'm taking Assassinate. I could max it if I kill Gilliman, but my entire game plan is to just avoid Gilliman the entire game."
Yeah, no. In our practice games, it was like, you know what? You have that center, brother. It's all yours. Yep. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna look in that direction.
The only way I managed to sort of fumble my way around it was having a jet bike captain who also handed out fight last, and even then, it was just a face beating contest.
I think he killed 2 Wind Riders at that point. So 7 Wind Riders with full rerolls to hit, shot into Gilliman and did no damage.
Yeah. It's T6 3-up in Vaughan and resurrecting is kind of
it's just like
it's rough to go into. And when he's being bodyguarded by Victrix Honor Guard that have 3-up in Vaughans.
Yes, and a medic that brings them back if you, for some reason, manage to kill one and not the other, which is always the case because you're like, it's just 2 guys.
Yeah,
it's just 2 guys.
In our game, I only killed 1 guy, and then he proceeded to march forward and do Oath of Moment for like 2 or 3 turns. Yeah, and I was just like, I can't kill this 1 guy.
I've done that mistake as well, where you're like, you try and kill him, you kill 1. And then you just realize it was all for nothing. You just leave him alone for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
you're like,
and he's like,
you know what? This is not worth contesting.
He's marching around on 1 wound as well, just to spite you.
Yeah. It's just, and then he goes like, is that Apothecary? Fix me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. The Victrix Honor Guard have overperformed in every game he's played.
I can't wait for him to go full sweat and just go mass Gladiator, Reaper, and
man, and that's the addition for it as well.
Desolators. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this new edition. Should be good.
Have you seen how many attacks Gulliman has?
Yeah, cool. Was it 10?
I think it's 14, isn't it?
Oh no. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I think it was either 6 and 12 or 7 and 14.
I think it's 7 and 14. It's something crazy.
He actually has a sweep now.
Yeah, so his sword is the sweep and his fist is the smash.
Yeah.
And he gets... Like, I looked at that data sheet and I was like, well, something's changed here.
And that brings me great hope. If Gilliman's got 14 attacks, bro, I want 50 attacks on the Lion.
I know, because the Lion already has, like, 10, right?
10. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to really be juicing things up, which is not what was promised. They promised us less AP and a less killy edition. And I don't know, man.
That man gonna kill.
All I'm seeing is devastating wounds on everything. Primarchs with 14 attacks and full rerolls.
Well, it's not just that. There was something else that happened with him. It's something else that was very interesting about his rules, right?
Oh, he has to pick one of 3 things, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets 1 buff, and pretty much I think you always pick the one for lol, let's Oath a Moment again.
Oh, yes, yeah. For full rerolls against a second unit, because reasons.
Yeah, after you kill the first one, because just carrying on with your overkill is the way to go. But no, I noticed something else in his rules. His stat line is fucking juiced right now, man. Where is he? Where are you? Gilliman. Girly man. The Gorilla Man. There we go. Yeah, he's got 10 wounds now, and he's toughness 9.
Oh, shit.
T9, my God.
That's tougher than a Rhino. That's tougher than...
Current Rhino, yeah.
Yeah.
He's,
the new Rhino is T7 or 8, I think.
No, I think Rhino's more, right? Because the Dreadnoughts are T10.
Okay.
At least the Redemptor ones are, the Redemptor chassis. But yeah, he's tanky, right? And Yeah, there you go. While he's within 3 inches of one or more friendly infantry,
He becomes a lone operative.
He gets lone operative. So he's tankier than before. Well, sure, he's lost his 3-up interval.
He's still
but
tankier than before, and you can't shoot him.
Yes. And I think his revive is on a 3-up now rather than a 4-up. Right? And he just comes up with flat 6 wounds, which is pretty nice. So yeah, he's still bullshit. He's incredible.
He's gone from an army multiplier to an army multiplier and a buff machine and a melee killing machine and a tanky boy.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got like 4 shots at 6 minus 2 too. Like, it's still something.
That's exactly the same as his profile now, right?
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's still pretty solid.
Despite saying they were reducing AP across the board, Gorilla Man retains his 2 AP mega heavy ball.
Yes. 14 attacks at 8 minus 3, 2 with devastating wounds. Yeah, please. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't know.
And then his Gorilla Fists are 14 minus 4, flat 4 damage with lethal hits as well, just to
what's lethal
really
hits again?
Punch those. 6 is to hit auto wound.
Auto wound. Okay.
Yeah. Gorilla wounding. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think they clarified them, right? Looking at I think they have clarified it. I've read something about it. There was some they did like a little Q&A section. Apparently all the Space Marine chapters, like, you know, the extra special ones, so that your Dark Angels and Space Wolves and the ones that have their own sort of codexes, the divergent ones, apparently they're going to be very much like treated as separate armies. So you can't have Gorilla Man as your epic hero for
White Scars, for example,
for Dark Angels or whoever else. Yeah.
Okay.
At least from what I'm understanding, because we were talking about this the other day. We're like, ooh, looking at his keywords, he goes in every Space Marine army. But no, apparently souping not a thing by the looks of things.
Yeah, I don't think Gulliman would be able to attack with both weapons. That would be silly.
No, definitely not attacking with both weapons. I'm pretty sure that part of combat stays the same. No, I meant like you can't. It doesn't look like.
Yeah, no. Kayla says he hopes he can't attack with both weapons.
Oh, no,
I'd like to think not. Otherwise,
no. Like I don't think in melee. Yeah, no, melee is always like one weapon. So
yeah,
getting 21 attacks is a bit insane.
It'd be like Heresy.
As funny as it
1.0.
As funny as it would be. I think the only person that could... Mortarion could do that back in the day, actually. Because remember, he had, 18 attacks with his sweep.
Yeah.
And he had Let the Galaxy Burn.
Mm-hmm.
No, was it Let the Galaxy Burn? Oh, no, Death to the False Emperor. That's the one. They had Death to the False Emperor, so against Imperium, they would get exploding 6s. Those are the good days. Bring back the Rick and Morty list, please. Those are good days. I want Mortarion and Magnus.
Mashed soup. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to the most. Is if that's Gurleyman's profile, what's Magnus's profile going to look like? Please make him useful. Please.
I mean, it would be cute, right? I would like him to be good. He's always felt really awkward, right? Because he's this giant red guy, but he's also meant to be the best psyker. And somehow he, like...
dies turn 1 to every army in the game. Yep.
Yeah, they pulled him really, like, heavily into him being a melee guy.
Yeah,
because his melee was pretty decent.
Yeah, because before 9th, he was a melee blender, and you used to cast powers on him to juice up his melee. Throw him in and see him, like, you know,
Yeah, you would buff himself, so it'd be like
Fat
minus
end
one
of
to
the
hit,
baseball bat.
3 up invuln.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just silly stuff.
And
like
now he's got nothing. He does super smites all the time. Cool. That's
that.
it.
And
That's
gets
all he's
shot.
got. That's literally all he's got. He knows every power, which is whatever. He's going to cast Doombolt. But yeah, the only thing I can see that he has that's of any value is he's always super smiting. But he obviously only smites once a turn, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not great, is it?
No.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, Kellis is saying he doesn't see any resilience in. I think he's referring to 10th edition. And he sees a shooting edition. I agree. I'm seeing tough vehicles.
Vehicles are tough. There's got to be a vehicle heavy.
The weird thing is the vehicles are absurdly tough now, and the guns have all lost AP basically across the board. Psychic powers have become guns with fairly low AP, but nothing's doing damage except.
Tanks doing damage to other tanks, mate.
Yeah, except like Stormbolters with mortal wounds on 6s and
big gorilla men.
Yeah, it's very unusual. Very, very unusual.
No, I mean, there's some interesting stuff, right? Yes, it seems to be leaning towards vehicles, but also all of a sudden, right, you got transports with the ramps.
Oh yeah, that's
so
cool.
All of a sudden you can do really weird. Like I expect melee to be, or at least to me, it seems like melee might be more of a utility thing, right? You're going to try and lock vehicles up in combat and do wacky stuff like that. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. At least it'll feel fresh for a little while.
That was the other thing that made me laugh was Space Marines get full rerolls against the unit as their army-wide buff. Sisters of Battle get you make the enemy battle shock once a turn.
It's not. It wasn't Sisters. That's
was it not Sisters?
It's Nids.
Oh, Nids. That was it. Yeah.
They battle shock the entire battlefield once a game, which is not on the same level.
No.
Well, I mean, depends. I think it's a very strong ability, but not for damage, right? Like, because with Battle Shock, they kind of lose OPSEC and stuff like that.
Yeah, you lose objective control, and you can't fall back, I think.
Yeah, some stuff like that. So it's definitely more of a utility piece.
But yeah, that's the other thing. The Stormbolter's devastating wounds, like Grey Knights. If you're playing a massed infantry list of Grey Knights, the amount of mortal wounds you're going to do in shooting is probably going to outstrip whatever anti-tank you brought. Just shoot Stormbolters at the damn vehicles.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
It's pretty silly.
And again, we haven't seen all the profiles, right?
We've seen the las cannon,
like
whose only change was +1 damage. So they instead of rolling a 1,
it's bigger strength.
You roll a 2. Yeah, but it's not.
Strength 12.
It's in relation to vehicles. I don't know what.
Yeah, it's on the same
strength is. Because at the moment it's strength 9, which means it's wounding every vehicle at least on 3s. But it depends on what toughness vehicles are going to go up to. Because if knights...
12 by looks things. Because the Land Raider is T12.
Yes, but they said in the article where they released the Land Raider, they said that stuff is going above 12. That it goes up to 14 or 16 or something like that.
It'll be interesting to see what goes up to that strength, because I can't think of anything that's meant to be tougher than a Rhino.
Because it's going to make the las cannons less useful than they were before. Because suddenly they're not wounding all vehicles on 3s.
Yeah, I was expecting las cannons to have something like anti-tank on them.
Yes, yeah, that's what I thought.
Apparently it doesn't. And Melter doesn't either, which is interesting. So I'm very curious to see what has anti-tank, or even if anti-tank is a thing, because we don't know that yet.
No, that's true.
I don't think we've seen anything with anti-tank. They mentioned anti, and I think we've seen anti-infantry, right?
Maybe we just see anti-aircraft, anti-infantry. anti-swarm, something like that. I don't know.
Maybe. Could be. Speculation's always fun.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Anyway, that is it from us. Thank you everyone for listening in and sticking with us for this episode that has come many months after we did our last podcast. You can catch us next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for our live battle report. Attila, who played Grey Knights at the RTT, said he wanted to play into the demon list for thematic reasons. So we'll be playing demons versus Grey Knights next week on Wednesday. And then after that, we'll just be taking it as it comes and seeing what happens until 10th edition. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.